In January 2016, a hunter in the snowy Swiss Alps lined up a shot on what he was certain was a red fox. He fired, but when he walked over through the snow to collect it, the animal lying there wasn't a fox. It wasn't a wolf either. It was something Switzerland had almost never recorded in the wild: a golden jackal. And the unsettling part wasn't that he shot one, it was that it was standing there at all, more than 1,000 kilometers from where this animal was supposed to live. Nobody moved it. No release program, no truck, no cage. It walked. And over the last 40 years, this wolf-like predator has quietly walked across an entire continent, appearing in country after country it had never lived in through all of recorded history. The questions scientists kept circling were not just how, but why now? And the answer is buried inside one of the biggest comeback stories in European wildlife. Now, before we go any further, I am genuinely curious about one thing. This is a story about a predator crossing borders and time zones right this second, so let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from, and what the time is where you are right now. Your country and your local clock. Go ahead and drop it below. I actually read them. Alright, back to the jackal. Start with what this animal actually is, because most people who meet one never realize what they are looking at. A golden jackal is the in-between animal. It is clearly bigger than a red fox, but smaller and far more delicate than a gray wolf, usually around 10 to 15 kilograms, with a slender muzzle, tall pointed ears, and long legs built for open ground. So when one crosses a field at dusk, people reach for the animal they already know. Too big for a fox, too small for a wolf, and they guess wrong. Even the scientists struggle. Its droppings are so hard to tell apart from a fox's that research teams now use specially trained detection dogs just to be certain. This predator hides in plain sight. It lives in tight little family units, a breeding pair that usually mates for life, often with a grown pup from the previous year that stays to help raise the next litter. It eats almost anything, from rodents and ground-nesting birds to insects, fruit, and a great deal of carrion. And at night it announces itself with a rising, yipping chorus that carries more than 2 kilometers across the dark countryside, a howl scientists now use to survey and count them. For most of recorded history, this was an animal of the edges, clinging to the warm coastal fringes of the Balkans and the shores of the Black Sea. Then, starting in the 1980s, the map cracked wide open. Jackals pushed north and west, first into Hungary, Serbia, and Croatia, and they kept going faster. Today, there are settled breeding populations right across southeastern and central Europe, but it is the far edges of the map that genuinely stop you. One reached the wetlands of the Netherlands in 2016. It appeared in France in 2017. In 2021, one was photographed in the frozen far north of Norway, above the Arctic Circle, at roughly 70 degrees north, in a landscape of snow and low Arctic light. It turned up in the forests of Finland, and in 2023, one crossed the Pyrenees Mountains into Spain. Around the same years, Germany confirmed its first known reproduction, which at the time was the westernmost breeding ever documented for the species. And these are not just a handful of lost individuals. In its Bulgarian stronghold, one assessment counted more than 39,000 jackals in a single year. Across the whole of Europe, estimates run past 100,000. In the farmland of Hungary, the number shot by hunters each year did not simply rise. After 2010, it went almost vertical. And one pioneer really lands it. When a jackal turned up at the far western front, scientists ran genetic detective work on it and traced its likely birthplace roughly 1,600 kilometers to the east. Not one animal strolling in a straight line, but a lineage leapfrogging across the continent, one long-distance disperser at a time. One quick note, so the science stays honest. The animal spreading across Europe is Canis aureus, the Eurasian golden jackal. It is not the African golden wolf, which was split off and recognized as a completely separate species back in 2015. Same old shared name, genuinely different animal. So here is the puzzle. A coastal specialist that sat almost perfectly still for thousands of years suddenly conquered a continent in a few decades. What changed? This jackal barely moved for something like 7,000 years, then exploded outward. Animals do not usually do that on their own. Something had to get out of the way first. And the leading answer is a single, larger predator: the gray wolf. For centuries, wolves ruled the same forests and river valleys that jackals wanted. And the relationship is brutally simple. A wolf will kill a jackal or simply drive it out and refuse to share the territory. So as a rule, where wolves are firmly established, jackals are not. Ecologists have a name for what happens when you strip a top predator out of a system and a smaller one surges up to fill the empty space. They call it mesopredator release. And that is exactly what Europe did to the wolf. For generation after generation, across almost the entire continent, people poisoned, trapped, and shot wolves, driving them to the very edge of extinction. We did not just clear out the wolf. Without realizing it, we lifted the lid that had been holding the jackal in place for thousands of years. The strongest evidence is where you can watch it happen in a single valley. When wolves move back into an area where jackals have already settled, the jackals leave. In one study that tracked this directly, it played out the same way in 7 out of 8 documented cases of wolves recolonizing. The residents vanished or got shoved out to the margins within about a year. The bigger predator came home, and the smaller one melted away. If you are finding this fascinating, take a second to subscribe. This channel digs into the animals quietly reshaping our world every week. Now the story so far looks almost too simple. Wipe out the wolves and the jackals flood in. But the honest version has a twist, and the twist is the best part. Wolves do not erase jackals everywhere. A major study published in 2026 pulled together nearly 9,000 survey points across 13 countries. It confirmed the gray wolf is the single biggest natural break on where jackals can live. But it also found something we did entirely by accident. Wherever there are lots of people, that break quietly stops working. Jackals shelter close to human activity, tucking into the farmland, villages, and roadsides that wolves instinctively avoid. The researchers called it a human shield. By frightening wolves away from our farms and towns for centuries, we accidentally carved out a safe corridor running right through the continent, and the jackal simply walked down it. And underneath all of it, there is a second engine: climate. When scientists modeled what best predicts where jackals turn up, the strongest single factor was not food and it was not forest. It was snow. Fewer days of snow on the ground, more jackals. And as European winters steadily warm, that old cold barrier, the deep snow that used to trap this animal down in the south, is quietly melting away. Put all three together and the why now finally clicks. We removed the one predator that kept the jackal in check. We built landscapes that shelter it from that predator's return. And we warmed the winters that used to stop it cold at the border. The jackal itself did not really change. We changed the whole continent around it. So a new predator settles into countries that have not had one quite like it in living memory. What happens when it runs into us? First, a strange legal puzzle. You would assume an animal showing up where it has never lived would be branded invasive and controlled. But it is not. Under European law, invasive means a species that humans carried somewhere it could never have reached on its own. And the jackal walked here, under its own 4 legs. So it cannot be called alien, and it cannot be called invasive. In the eyes of the law, this newcomer belongs. That leaves a patchwork. Out on the western frontier in Germany, Switzerland, and Italy, the jackal is protected, but in its core range, it is hunted hard. Bulgaria takes tens of thousands every year. Hungary sets shooting quotas running into the thousands. Then there is livestock, where fear usually races ahead of the facts. Jackals will occasionally take a sheep, a few chickens, the odd newborn lamb. But the damage is generally minor compared to larger predators, and a jackal scavenges far more than it ever kills. As one veteran wildlife biologist put it, this is simply not an animal that should keep farmers awake at night. In fact, it may be doing us a quiet, unpaid favor, cleaning up carcasses that would otherwise be left to rot in the fields. Across Europe, that has been estimated at something like 9,000 tons of remains removed. A free sanitation service running across the countryside while nobody notices. And this loops right back to where we began, to that hunter and his fox. Because that confusion is not harmless. Out on the expanding front, one of the real dangers to jackals is simply being shot by mistake, killed by hunters who were sure they were aiming at a red fox. The animal is spreading faster than people can learn to recognize what they are looking at. So where does it all end? The most recent modeling suggests the golden jackal has, in a sense, only just started. Left to its own momentum, pushed along by warming winters and human-shaped land, this predator could eventually occupy something like 3/4 of the entire continent. But remember the one force that reliably stops it: the wolf. And here is the quiet turn at the very end. After a full century of relentless persecution, the wolf is coming back. Across Europe, wolf populations are recovering and reclaiming old ground, padding back into the very same lowlands the jackal has been busy colonizing. So we may be watching something genuinely rare unfold in real time. Two predators this continent once tried its hardest to erase, both returning at the same moment, on their own terms, colliding inside landscapes we rebuilt while they were gone. Nobody is directing this. There is no plan. The wolf and the jackal are simply redrawing the map of European wildlife between the two of them, night after night, out in the dark. And the animal at the center never once needed our permission. It just started walking. The only real question left is how far the jackal gets before the wolf finally catches up. If you want more stories about the creatures quietly reshaping the world around us, the wolves, the jackals, and the ones we have not even noticed yet, subscribe and stick around, because this map is still being drawn.